Have you ever stopped to think about how a personal reading list, it's really so much more than just, a list of titles. It's almost like a living map, charting someone's inner world, what grabs their attention, how their views change, uh, the whole journey of their curiosity, really. Today on the deep dive, we're taking a bit of a shortcut, a fascinating one. We're diving deep into the Goodreads reading list of Michael Lynchesky, and this isn't just scrolling through a few books he liked. No, this is a really detailed chronological record. It goes back decades. Think of it like a blueprint of a mind actively reading and thinking. It's quite a gold mine.
Exactly. And our mission here for this deep dive is precisely that. We want to pull out the key insights, the nuggets of knowledge from this, well, pretty unique source material. We're doing a bit of intellectual archaeology, you could say,
Yeah.
finding those enduring classics, digging up some maybe surprising, lesser-known favorites that show his real taste. We'll also pinpoint the years where his reading just, like, exploded and trace how his interest, the genres he picked, shifted over time.
Yeah.
It's honestly like getting a peek into a private library that's constantly reorganizing itself,
Yeah.
reflecting the reader.
Right. And diving in, the first thing that hits you is just the sheer volume and the diversity. It's kind of overwhelming. I mean, we're talking reads logged from 1999 all the way to what, June 2025? That's a quarter century of tracking his reading. And the publication dates, they go way, like Robinson Crusoe from 1719. He read that. Wow, nearly 3 centuries of writing popping up.
It really is mind-boggling. And what's so valuable about a list like Michael's, one that's so detailed and kept up over time, is that it gives you this rare, unfiltered look into real interest, genuine curiosity. This isn't just about what's hitting the bestseller list right now. It shows a consistent deep dive into a huge range of subjects, from serious history to thrillers that keep you on the edge of your seat. And an appreciation for different styles, different eras. It paints a picture of someone who's just consistently curious, always looking, always learning. You can almost map his intellectual landscape.
I like that intellectual landscape. Okay, so let's start putting down some markers on that map. What about the big ones, the monumental classics that really stand out? Those timeless books that just resonate across generations, the ones you almost expect a serious reader to have tackled. What did Michael gravitate towards there?
Well, it's genuinely impressive how many foundational literary works show up, real established classics. It signals a pretty solid literary grounding. He's either revisited them or maybe discovered them for the first time during this period. For example, you see a super early classic like Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, published way back in 1719, like you said, and he read it just this year, 2025. That alone says something about its staying power, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, jumping ahead quite a bit, mid-20th century American lit. You've got G.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. He read that back in 1999. That's actually where the chronology of his recorded reads kicks off, a book that's foundational for so many people growing up.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe the most striking presence in this sort of classics corner is John Steinbeck. There's a real dedication there. He read multiple Steinbeck books across different years.
Yeah.
The Grapes of Wrath in 2001, The Pearl in 2004, East of Eden, that was 2005.
Wow.
Also, The Moon is Down in 2005. Tortilla Flat, 2006, and then Travels with Charlie sometime later. The date isn't specified. This isn't just, picking up one Steinbeck.
Yeah.
It feels like a real engagement with his themes, social justice, resilience, the American landscape. Almost like a quest.
Like a Steinbeck quest. Yeah, I see that.
And other literary heavyweights are here, too. Hemingway, for instance. The Sun Also Rises, read in 2012, and The Old Man and the Sea in 2006. Both pretty short, powerful books that stick with you. And Jack London's The Sea Wolf from 1904. He read that early on, back in 1999. Sort of sets a tone, maybe, for an interest in adventure and challenge.
Right, the rugged stuff.
Exactly. But it's not just the old guard, so to speak. The list really embraces modern classics, too. Books that gained prominence pretty quickly, like Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses, stunning book, read just in 2024. Richard Russo's Empire Falls, read in 2023, that won a Pulitzer.
Oh, yeah. Great book.
Donna Tartt's massive The Goldfinch, read in 2015, and Marcus Zusak's The Book Thief from 2010, which so many people adore. These are more contemporary, but you could argue they're already essential reads. Shows he's keeping up with significant literary voices.
That's a good point. It's not stuck in the past.
Not at all. And it's not just adult fiction either. There are YA classics with wide appeal, like Lois Lowry's The Giver, read in 2015. Really thought-provoking. And Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game in 2018, a huge sci-fi title. Then, switching gears, you've got major nonfiction, too, like Stephen Ambrose's Band of Brothers, read back in 2004. And Laura Hillenbrand, both Unbroken from 2011 and Seabiscuit from 2004. Incredible stories of resilience. So yeah, it's a really wide net of timelessness, literature, history, different styles.
That really is an impressive range, stretching from, the early 1700s right up to modern prize winners, YA. It shows a real consistent engagement with enduring stuff across centuries, not just dipping a toe in, but like you said, that Steinbeck dive. So given that huge landscape, what really jumped out at you? What were the surprises, the less obvious picks maybe, the ones that tell us even more about his specific unique tastes?
Ah, yeah, this is where the deep dive gets really interesting because you see his individual preferences shine through so clearly. He's definitely not just following bestseller lists. For example, there's this consistent, really strong appreciation for Peter Heller's fiction. He gave 5-star ratings to The Painter, Red in 2015, The Dog Stars in 2013, and The Guide in 2023.
Peter Heller. Okay.
Yeah, Heller's novels, they often blend like literary depth with adventure themes, survival in tough landscapes, a connection to nature. Michael giving these repeated high ratings, it suggests a real resonance. Something about Heller's voice, his themes of resilience, isolation, it just clicks. And these aren't necessarily, the biggest blockbusters out there, but they clearly hit a sweet spot for him.
That's revealing, finding an author like that.
Totally. Another one is Rachel Joyce's The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, also 5 stars, read back in 2013. It's this charming, kind of poignant novel about an ordinary guy on an unexpected journey. Lots about regret, forgiveness, quiet heroism. Its subtle power, the focus on human connection that clearly resonated, shows an appreciation for character-driven stories that, hit you in the heart.
Right, more subtle character stuff.
Yeah. And then more recently, The Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku. Read in 2024, another 5-star pick. It's a memoir, an Auschwitz survivor's story. Incredibly moving testament to hope, resilience. Just wow. Highlights an interest in profound human stories, historical testimony.
Powerful choice.
Definitely. And the fact that a very recent 5-star from just this year, 2025, is Charlotte McConaty's Wild Dark Shore, that has themes of environmentalism, interconnectedness. It just shows he's still actively searching for impactful, emotionally resonant reads, thought-provoking stuff, even books just hitting the shelves.
Wow, those really are interesting finds. It's not just popularity, it's about what genuinely connects. Like you said, he knows what he likes and seeks it out, almost like an internal compass. Speaking of patterns, though, let's shift gears slightly. What about sheer volume? Were there times he was just tearing through books? What do the numbers tell us about the biggest years for his reading quantity?
Yeah, the quantity data shows some really clear peaks. Fascinating, actually. His absolute peak reading year so far was 2023, an impressive 31 books read.
31? Wow, that's a lot.
It is almost a book every week and a half, roughly. That's a serious pace. And other recent years were also really high volume. 2021 had 29 books. 2022 had 24, and going back a bit, 2014 had 21 books. So there's a cluster there.
As you'll surge.
Exactly. And what's really striking is 2024. By June 24th, he'd already read 25 books.
Already. So he's on track to beat 2023.
Potentially, yeah. If he keeps up that pace, 2024 could easily be his biggest year yet. It's already a very high volume year. And this recent robust period, it contrasts pretty sharply with earlier years in the record. Like back in 2008, the list shows only 3 books read. In 2011, it was just 6.
Wow, from 3 or 6 a year to potentially over 30, that's a massive difference.
It's a huge shift. It really illustrates a significant surge in reading activity in recent years. Not just a little uptick, it's, profound re-engagement.
That is a huge shift. What do you think might be behind that? Just like a renewed focus, more time? Or maybe finding a groove, a genre he just can't put down?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We can only speculate. But yeah, that kind of consistent surge often points to reading becoming more intentional, more prioritized. Could be lifestyle changes, less commute maybe, or just a conscious decision to carve out more time for books. It also suggests he's really found a rhythm, maybe specific authors or genres, like you said, that just pull him in, makes the act of reading itself more compelling, almost like the joy of discovery built up this powerful momentum in his reading life.
It really is like watching an intellectual autobiography unfold. A real privilege to see that evolution. So building on that idea of evolution, what about genre changes? This is often where you see the journey most clearly laid out, right? What does the timeline reveal about his shifting interests?
Well, absolutely. This is, for me, one of the most fascinating parts. You can definitely trace a clear evolution moving through distinct phases, though they do connect.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So the early period, let's say roughly pre-2010s, as we talked about, it's built on a strong foundation of classic literature, Steinbeck, Hemingway, Salinger. That signals that core interest in enduring stories. But alongside that, there's a really strong showing for adventure and outdoor nonfiction. John Krakauer's Into Thin Air, Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods, and these intense survival stories. Arctic Homestead, In the Land of White Death, Adrift, suggests a pull towards challenge, resilience, the power of nature.
Right. Makes sense with the sea wolf, too.
Exactly. This period also marks his first real steps into thrillers and suspense. You see Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan stuff, Stephen Hunter's Bob Lee Swagger series, early Grisham, early Baldacci. So it's this foundational mix: literary depth, real-world adventure, and the start of that love for high-stakes action.
Okay, phase one, what happens next?
Moving into the mid-period, say, roughly 2010 to 2017, this is where thrillers and suspense really solidify. They become a dominant genre, a core pillar. He goes deep into series. Lee Child's Jack Reacher, tons of those. Daniel Silva's Gabriel Án, Michael Connelly, both Harry Bosch and Lincoln Lawyer, multiple Baldacci series again. Harlan Coben shows up strong.
Ah, the big series authors. Finding his groove there.
Totally. Seems like he found a real comfort zone in the rhythm and excitement of ongoing series. But this period also sees something else interesting. Young adult dystopian fiction. The Hunger Games, Divergent, The Giver, Maze Runner. This lines up with when those were huge culturally, right?
Yeah, everyone was reading those for a while.
Right. And then contemporary sci-fi pops up too, notably Andy Weir, The Martian, Artemis. Smart, grounded sci-fi. Nonfiction remains important. Diverse stuff like Unbroken, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Powerful stories. And this is also where Peter Heller first appears, adding that unique literary adventure blend we talked about. So the mid-period is broadening, engaging popular trends, but really cementing that thriller focus.
Okay, so classics and adventure first, then a big dive into thrillers and yaw sci-fi. What about the most recent years, 2018 to now?
Right, the recent period, 2018 to mid-2025. Here, the list shows an almost overwhelming dominance of thriller, espionage, and action series. It's even more focused. He seems to be actively pursuing newer authors who've gotten big in this space. Jack Carr's Terminal List series, Greg Hurwitz's Orphan X, Mick Petrie's Peter Ash, Alan Eskin's crime novels.
So doubling down on the thrillers, but exploring the newer generation.
Exactly. He keeps up with his established favorites too, but these newer series really take center stage. Clearly loves that high-octane plot, the skilled protagonist. But here's the other major shift happening simultaneously. A really distinct and growing move towards self-improvement and philosophical nonfiction.
Ah, okay. That's a different direction.
It really is. This is where you find titles like Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. Also Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck, Amy Morin's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do, Mickey Singer's The Surrender Experiment.
Quite a collection. Seems very intentional.
It does, doesn't it? It suggests maybe a period of deliberate self-reflection, seeking practical strategies, maybe ways to build habits, understand well-being better. It feels like he's actively looking for tools for personal growth, which mirrors a broader trend we see, people taking a more proactive approach to their own development. And historical nonfiction remains a constant thread, especially military history, World War II Max Hastings, Sean Parnell. That interest is steady, but notably the YA reading drops off quite a bit in this recent phase. The focus sharpens onto adult thrillers and this insightful nonfiction, practical wisdom, history, human behavior.
So pulling it all together, it sounds like a journey from broad exploration classics, adventure into a mid-period, solidifying that thriller love while sampling popular trends, and then culminating recently in this really focused yet dual interest. Deep dives into thriller series on one hand, and this growing engagement with practical wisdom, philosophy, and history on the other. What a fascinating evolution.
It truly is. Michael's reading list really demonstrates how a personal reading record isn't static at all. It's dynamic, a self-portrait, really. It reveals this intellectual journey, these evolving tastes, and just a sustained, multifaceted curiosity over years and years. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How might our own shelves, whether they're virtual like Goodreads or physical bookshelves, tell a similar story about us? Or maybe a completely different one. What does your reading history say about your own journey of discovery? Something to think about.